The Pre-Platonic Philosophers by Friedrich Nietzsche, translated from the German and edited with an introduction and commentary by Greg Whitlock. 2. Wise, (sophos). The Greeks regarded Thales of Miletus as the first philosopher. In itself, it is arbitrary to say that so-and-so is the first and that before him there were no philosophers, for a type does not come to exist all at once. Such a stipulation follows from a definition of, quote, the philosopher. This riddle of defining philosopher is what we seek to solve. Thales posits a principle from which he makes deductions. He is foremost a systematizer. It might be argued that, on the contrary, we already find the same quality in many of the older cosmogonies. We need only think of the cosmological notions in the Iliad, then the Theogony, then the Orphic Theogonies, and then Pherecydes of Syros, already a contemporary of Thales, however, Thales is distinguished from these in that he is unmythological. His contemplations were conducted entirely within concepts. The poet, who represents a preliminary stage to the philosopher, was to be overcome. Why does Thales not completely blur together with the seven sages? He does not philosophize sporadically, in separate proverbs. He not only makes one great scientific discovery, but also synthesizes an image of the world. He seeks the whole. Thus, Thales overcomes 1. The mythic preliminary stage of philosophy, 2. The sporadic proverbial form of philosophy, and 3. The various sciences. The first by thinking conceptually, the second by systematizing, and the third by creating one unified view of the world. Philosophy is therefore the art that presents an image of universal existence in concepts. This definition fits Thales first. Of course, a much later time recognized this. And even the description of him as the first philosopher is, of course, not in the character of Thales' times. The word probably does not exist yet, and under no circumstances would it have had this specific meaning. Also, quote, sophos does not, without qualification, mean, quote, wise, in the usual sense. Etymologically, it is related to sapio, quote, to taste, sapiens, quote, one who tastes, and saphis, quote, tasteable. We speak of, quote, taste in the arts. For the Greeks, the notion of taste is extended still further via a reduplicative form. Sisyphus, quote, of sharp taste, active, sucus, is related to it, chi for p, like lupus and leucos, close bracket. According to etymology, then, the word lacks the eccentric meaning. It contains nothing of quietude and asceticism, only a sharp taste, a sharp knowledge, without any connotation of a, quote, faculty. We should strongly contrast this to takin, from tech, to generate, close bracket, which always denotes a, quote, bringing forth. Whenever artists are called sophoi, Phidias, a wise sculptor, Polyclitus, a wise maker of portrait statues, close bracket, it indicates, according to Aristotle, the perfection of their art. Thus, a, quote, maker of portrait statues of the finest taste, close quote, sophos, like sapiens, in the superlative. Now, if we call a human being wise, not in one particular aspect, but in general, Aristotle says, it shows that wisdom must be the most superb, and universal, scientific knowledge, Wissenschaft. The wise man must not only be able to know how conclusions follow from principles, but he must know even this as well: which branch of knowledge contains those principles most worthy of knowledge. We always, of course, distinguish wisdom from cleverness. Every being that finds its goods within its own circumstances we call clever. That which Thales and Anaxagoras know would it normally be termed out of the ordinary, miraculous, difficult, divine, but useless, because to them it had nothing to do with humane goods. Thus, sophoi receives the character of the useless. In its service, an excess of intellect is necessary. In this connection, we recall the important wise sayings on the part of the Delphic oracle. Thales is the first philosopher and one of the first sages, sophoi. I must emphasize that Thales was designated as sophos on entirely other grounds than those invoked when he was called the first philosopher. We have distinguished a mythic preliminary stage of philosophy and a sporadic proverbial one. Which is the preliminary stage of sophoi? Or better, that of wisdom, sophos. How has the type wise man, sophos, anir, developed by degree up until the 7 stages, sophoi, of the Delphic oracle? In which embryonic form does philosophy reveal itself? In which philosopher? These are 2 separate questions.